Okay.
Hi everyone. Welcome to the session with Erico Fileno. So let me quickly introduce our great speaker. Erico is the head of innovation and design at Visa, Brazil. He have been working with user research, design thinking, UX strategy, service design besides interaction design for global brands since 1995. He was a pioneer for igniting service design, UX, and interaction design movements in Brazil. So, Erico, the stage is yours. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Maria. So let's share my screen. Okay. 1 minute. Just a minute here. Okay.
Sure, take your time. And
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
it works.
Okay.
It works.
Okay. Okay. So thank you, Maria. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here, taking part of this amazing initiative. Thank you for inviting me, and congratulations, Maria, Gideone, Camila, Pradiuna, volunteers, and all crew for this very important conference. I would like to invite to join me on a journey about the power of communities. Okay, just change.
Yeah. I think you would need
Oh
you
yeah,
locate the icon. Yeah, works.
okay. So I'm Erico Fileno, and I have been practicing study design for 25 years. I'm an expert in user experience field through service design, interaction design, and strategic design too. I have worked on hundreds of projects which impact the lives of millions of people around the world. Furthermore, I am an international speaker, professor, and design leader in my work and in my community. For almost 2 decades, I have been teaching interaction design, service, and design thinking to the next generation of design. And speak up about community, because in design, nobody does anything alone. Let's begin with the concept. The concept of community has long been restricted to the idea of a group of people who reside in the same geographical area, sharing a way of life, a cultural, and a historical legacy. Nowadays, information and communication technology make it possible for to expand the scope of community and go beyond geographical limits. Today, the concept of communities refers to a group of people who share something in common, such as a common story, a common goal, a particular profession, or a set of common practices. The term we usually use is community of practice, and it's referred to a collaboration and exchange of knowledge among its members. To illustrate this point, I would like to tell about 3 moments in the history of Brazil when the emergence of communities joined the triad that make up the Brazilian social and cultural schemes. I would like to bring example of the native people of this land, the Black Africans who were brought and enslaved in Brazil, and the white European people who invaded and took over these lands. Let's start with the legitimate owner of the land, native people. Being in touch with nature is very important. Everything is taken from it, but with a balanced, sustainable, and symbiotic relationship. A striking feature across the various indigenous ethnicities in the sense of collectivism, where are 2 examples of this. First, collectives management, based on cooperation between members of the same tribe, on the separation and organization of social work, moreover, in alliance and wars between different tribes. Second, social separation of life in the tribal, where children never work and are brought up all the older members of the tribe, expand the concept of nuclear family, and bring the discussion of the figure of the older person pass on knowledge to the younger one through oral history. Now, I would like to speak about the heart of the land, Kilombola communities. Like the native people, Black women and men were fundamental in the composition of the Brazilian social and cultural fabric, due to the greatest crime of humanity between the 16th and 19th centuries. It's estimated that more than 10 million Black people were removed from Africa, many died in the cross, and others were taken to other parts of the Americas. The largest contingent of people landed in Brazil. Approximately 6 million Black people were trafficked and landed on the Brazilian coast to be enslaved and work in farming, mining, domestic work on farms, or in the incipient cities of Brazil at that time. The sign of resistance has always been the struggle for freedom, and the Black men and women who managed to escape organized themselves in Quilombola communities, present today in Brazilian territory. The word Quilombo means fortress, and the one Quilombo among the many that was remarkable is in our history is Quilombo dos Palmares, located in Brazilian Northeast. This Quilombo was led by Zumbi dos Palmares and Dandara, and until today, it is a symbol of Black resistance and adaptability of the Black people. The sense of community is something remarkable in Brazilian history because Black people came from different regions of the African continent with different culture and tradition. And here they had to adapt and build a new culture with the construction of a new regionality with African matrix as candomblé and umbanda, new behavior tradition like capoeira and feijoada, new dances and music as our famous samba, which have immensely impacted the makeup of Brazil. Last but not least, Colonia Cecilia. Brazil has always developed through much experimentation. There was never any centralized planning for the development of the country, and this has happened since its colonization by the Portuguese in the 16th century. Exploitation and looting have always been the rule. On the other hand, after the end of slavery in the end of the 19th century, this reality began to change due to the newly formed Republican project of whitening the population. As I said earlier, Brazil was the country that received the most enslaved Black people. And now these people were unable to support themselves and they head to the cities and built the first favela as makeshift housing, while having no access to decent work opportunities. The new republic turned its back on them. With the whitening policy of the population, thousands of white people started to arrive here. Brazil received with government aid more than 6 million immigrants from different European and Asian countries. It is with the context that a group of approximately 300 Italians formed the first anarchist community in the Americas, in the city, in the south of Brazil. This adventure of Colonia Cecilia portrays the spirit of living the new experience and experimenting with the new formats of society. As a prototype, this adventure ended after 5 years. These examples show that communities may come in many shapes and sizes, but they have something in common. And I would like to highlight some points very important to discuss about community. First, sense of organization with collective decision, characteristic of the native people. Second, adaptation to the local context, resistance to fight, and resilience to build a new history, characteristics of Black people. And third, openness to new discovery and experimentation, characteristic of white people who come to venture into Brazil. Very well, so you might be wondering how that's related to design. Guess what? You come to the right place because I will tell you. To understand this point, we need to ask ourselves, what design are we talking about? After all, design has formally existed for over 100 years in the world, and it has been present in Brazil since 1960s. So the design community has existed for a long time, right? Yes and no. First, we need to understand the striking difference between new design trends and more traditional ones. Traditional design characteristics of the last century focus on form and function. Here represented in this graphic through the visual and artifact circles, has a huge and active communities with association, conference, awards, exhibition, and academic research. The new design represented here in the graph through interaction and systems circles takes into the consideration usability, user experience, and service perspective, in addition to dealing with brand emotion aspect and systemic thinking. On the top, is still care about form and function, of course. However, I would like to start this story with a parallel with my career. In 2005, I had completed 10 years work in design, and I was doing my master degree. My final project was on interaction design in digital culture inside the School of Education of the university. I was aiming to set up an interaction design school with a practice and discussion group to train new professionals and build a community around the school in the city of Curitiba, my city with more than 2 million inhabitants in the south and the design capital of Brazil. During my master degree, I had already contact with the Interaction Design Association. And in the same year that I complete my master degree, I decided to move forward with my plan to deploy an interaction design school in Curitiba. First of all, I met a group of people who were enthusiastic about the topic and set up the local chapter at ixda. Second, in the same year, we opened the doors of the Fabio Luden Institute for Interaction Design, the first research, practice, and dissemination center on interaction design in Latin America. The design school consisted of a graduate program, advanced research, and outreach course. When set up the course, I was inspired by the pioneering program of Interaction Design Institute of Ivrea in Italy. Our strategy was to create a base for this community oriented to the training of the new generation of professionals. In addition, we sought to connect with other existing communities in Brazil and abroad, with universities and other educational institutions, computer-human interaction teacher network, usability communities, and other ixda chapters around the world. At that time, there were only 3 ixda local chapters in all Latin America, just 3 cities in Brazil: Belo Horizonte, Curitiba, and Recife. And we start talk about to invite a keynote speaker from the ixda community to come to Brazil for our local conference. In 2008, the first global interaction design conference was held, and we also decided to do ours with a regional trademark, as it increased the number of chapters in Brazil, and a chapter had opened in Argentina too. So Interaction South America emerged in 2009, nowadays called Interaction Latin America. It's an event that starts with just over 200 attendees and has already taken more 1,800 professionals in the Rio de Janeiro edition in 2018, for example. A summary of over a decade is that today we have 60 chapters of ixda throughout the region, 34 just in Brazil, with hundreds of activities and one big conference every year. Beyond that, some good smaller conferences had emerged and end up support the entire network. We are an active community with almost 15,000 professionals. Also, those of course have been open many blogs, information portals, podcasts, and video channels have all emerged to support growth, discussion, our practice, and propagate design within companies and society. In addition to that, I managed to bring the Service Design Network representation to Brazil in 2012. And since then, we have promoted events and debates about service design too. Very well. So now you might be asking yourself, how to build a design community? Let me share some ideas with you. First of all, you will need a small group of enthusiastic people. You will not work alone. Develop community, from my point of view, start at the base, through the creation of a critical mass and the construction of knowledge. It's very important to encourage the creation of education course, academic and no academic. At the first level above the base, it's necessary to build an environment for the exchange and shared knowledge. That is why it's necessary for the emergence of local groups, such as Interaction Design Association or Service Design Network, for instance. In addition, events with presentation of academic works and market projects are very important too. This important exchange can be improved through the production of content on blogs, podcasts, and videos. Only then we will reach the second level, where there is the promotion of practice and the creation of professional job position in companies. This three-level relationship occurs in an orchestrated and interconnected way. It seems very peaceful so far, right? Wrong. Because we had many challenges to face, and the strength of the community of the people who make up this network was essential to move forward. One hand always helps the other. However, we need to look at to our community with a critical eye, just as we must have a critical role in our own Brazilian society. We have many problems that need to be corrected urgently. The current moment in our profession brings new questions, which began to be built in the recent years. Interconnect to all the questions that are emerging in the social strata. Question like, what is the woman's participation in the events? How many professional women were invited to speak at the last events? Is the LGBTQ plus community included? Where are the Black professionals and how are they being brought into the community? How do we manage to train more Black professionals? How do we manage to make design less elitist and train more low-income people? How do we treat professionals with varied disabilities? How do we incorporate accessibility into the project we work on? How can we be more inclusive? What is the social role of design? How can we bring up discussion on the colonial design? Where are our cultural references? How can we destroy patriarchy? How can we destroy sexism and misogyny in society? How can we destroy the foundation on structural racism? How can we work for equity in Brazilian design? These are examples of a series of endless questions we need to discuss now. As designer, that is, as a professional, we reflect through practice and learn by doing. The answers will come if we turn to our community to provoke this revolution. We need to start build some answer to this question through practical action. I'm so happy to know that we have already started this journey. I would like to invite you to discover some of these initiatives that are already provoke this revolution in Brazil. Meet some of these revolutionaries.
Hi, I'm Indaya, Brazilian, 25 years old, working with design focus on transportation. My journey was able to see the design evolution from the specialist to a strategy and business. And why happened that? Because time to time, society changed. And we realized that human beings unique, also their needs and demands. Why emigrate? Because I was tired to be in places that I shouldn't be. As a Black woman, divorced, whatever. So I use design and their tools to change my life. So first of all, I connect with some groups that I looking for support, like Yoshis for Black women and also Pretux. They don't only welcome me, but they also give me courses, lectures, exchange. So I saw horizon of possibilities. So I made a movement because future doesn't exist. We need to build it. And I believe that design is a kind of universe with a lot of planets who have inputs, outputs all the time, who generally gives light and make connections with everyone. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Guilherme de Paula. I am from Brazil and was born in the small city of São Paulo. I'm starting working with graphic design and after with user experience, and actually I find myself in the last years working with research and innovation. I think that is very hard when you have a narrow vision about market and our place on that, because we have singular and multiple journeys. For a long time, I used to sow the same model of leadership and missing people with different proposals over companies. I am starting to get in touch with people outside, which gave me a great support and creating a vision of a fairer society. So I noticed how much important is the power of communities. My tip for you today is be part of this. Sometimes be in telescopes, watching and learning the movement of celestial bodies. Sometimes being hammered, making smart and consistent decisions. And sometimes being screwdriver, just getting the job done. The most important of all this is let go your ego. It's a great time to listen, observe, and learn, because just together with other people, we will be a better version of ourselves every day. Thank you.
Olá, meu nome é Jeff, sou o fundador da Pretux e vim aqui para contar mais sobre a nossa comunidade. Primeiramente, gostaria de agradecer pela oportunidade de poder estar aqui hoje. Bom, a Pretux foi fundada em junho de 2020, A nossa comunidade foi criada para ajudar pessoas pretas que trabalham com design, mais especificamente, pessoas que trabalham com a experiência do usuário. Hoje, nós somos mais de 350 pessoas, dos mais diversos lugares do Brasil. Através de parcerias com instituições de ensino e com empresas, disponibilizamos apoio educacional com bolsas de estudos e mentorias regulares. Com essas iniciativas, nós já encaminhamos diversas pessoas pretas para o mercado de trabalho. Os nossos próximos passos são disponibilizarmos apoio jurídico e apoio à saúde mental de forma gratuita para a nossa comunidade. Convido vocês a conhecerem mais sobre a Pretux. Nós estamos no Instagram, Facebook e LinkedIn. Nosso site é o www.pretux.com.br. Obrigado a todos e um forte abraço.
Black women make up more than 20% of Brazil's population, and yet we are very few working in tech. O X para Minas Pretas, or in English UX for Black Women, is an initiative by Black women for Black women to promote gender and race equity in this field. Focused on user experience design, we use training, empowerment, knowledge sharing, and networking to expand and democratize this field so that products and services are created from new perspectives.
Oi gente, tudo bem? Meu nome é Wagner Silva, eu sou músico, designer e escritor autodidata, nasci no Rio de Janeiro e hoje trabalho em São Paulo como designer de produto. Eu sempre gostei de desenhar, criar e etc. Eu vim de uma família muito artística e isso me influenciou desde a infância. Em 2018 eu comecei a criar conteúdo sobre design e negritude e também criei um grupo no Facebook chamado Design Digital para Negros, que foi da onde surgiu a ideia do designnegresnobrasil.com.br. Falar de diversidade é extremamente necessário e apesar de não ser uma discussão nova, em 2020 apenas 20% dos profissionais negros ocupam o mercado de trabalho de design. E além da baixa taxa no mercado, um dos problemas que muitos designers encontram na faculdade é que se ouve falar muito pouco sobre essas pessoas e sobre os profissionais negros que contribuíram para a história do design. E é a partir desse cenário que o designnegresnobrasil.com.br surge. Junto com minhas amigas Tainá Simões e Amanda Silva, que são excelentes profissionais, a gente desenvolveu essa iniciativa que tem como principal objetivo possibilitar com que as pessoas encontrem novas referências negras em design e também para que as empresas encontrem novos perfis para diversificar a sua equipe. Para os profissionais que querem participar da iniciativa e ter o seu perfil exibido no site, é muito simples. É só acessar o site designnegresnobrasil.com.br, clicar em enviar o seu perfil e preencher o formulário. Beleza? Tchau, tchau.
Thanks to our communities who are changing this situation. You are the present and the future. Shall we make this revolution together? Let's go now. For all at home or work, thank you so much for your time. Obrigado.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Erico. I think that was one of the most powerful and inspiring sessions for today. And I really saw when you were looking at those videos, I saw your expression that you were really proud of those people, and it's really visible. So unfortunately, we ran out of time, and we don't even have time for questions. So I would really invite you guys to find Erico in LinkedIn and ask him questions directly, or try to ask him maybe on Hova if he's gonna be there, but I think LinkedIn is better. Thank you so much, Erico. It was really, really great.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.